Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GinJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Friday, December 6th. Hopefully everyone has had a great week, getting ready for a fun weekend. Jaguars and Titans rivalry week game means not a whole lot, except for when it comes to the first overall pick, right? But today we're looking at an interesting article from Florida Bet, and it offers hypothetical odds for the Jaguars' next head coach. And the reason these are hypothetical is because Doug Peterson is still the Jaguars' head coach. So sports books do not currently have odds for the next Jaguars head coach. Now, Doug Peterson is the odds-on favorite to be the next head coach fired. So I thought it would be interesting to take a look at, these hypothetical odds from Florida Bet. They're the only thing we have to go off of right now in terms of, potential odds for the Jaguars' next head coaching job. And I just thought there was some interesting names on here to look at. Again, it's not, available to be bet on right now. It's all just hypothetical at this point. So we're going to dive into it, though, have some fun here, take a look at some names that could be associated with the Jaguars coaching job in the future, because I think for all intents and purposes, Doug Peterson probably is coaching his last few games here in Jacksonville. Whether he's fired on Black Monday or some other time, we don't know. I cannot possibly see the Jaguars missing the playoffs 2 years in a row with the expectations they've had, and being 3-15 over their last 18 games, and Doug Peterson being able to keep his job. That's how I view it. So, looking at the odds for the next Jaguars head coach, again, hypothetical. Interesting couple names at the top of the list. Plus 600, two guys at plus 600. Todd Monken, the current Ravens offensive coordinator, and Aaron Glenn, current Lions defensive coordinator. That would be really interesting. We'll start with Todd Monken because he doesn't get mentioned as a potential head coach a lot. You do hear the name from time to time, but he's certainly not one of these potential head coaching candidates that is consistently associated with NFL head coaching jobs. You just don't see it all that much. And Todd Monken has coached in Jacksonville before. He was the wide receivers coach from 2007 to 2010. So there's a little bit of history here. If you recognize the name, obviously what he did at Georgia, kind of modernizing that offense and utilizing their skill sets to the best of his ability, and then coming in to Baltimore a couple years back. And what he was able to do was take a team that had a really diverse run game and keep that run game going, but also really expand the passing offense in a big way. And obviously the talent on the Ravens is not the same as the talent on the Jaguars. Two very different quarterbacks, a lot of different skill position talent, offensive line talent, all that stuff. But Todd Monken would be a candidate that would represent a potential for innovation on offense, for utilizing skill sets to the best of their ability. It'd be an interesting one. Now, Monken, not a spring chicken, not one of the younger guys in the league as an offensive coordinator, right? He is 58 years old, and he has never been an NFL head coach, so it's not like you're talking about a retread type of situation. But he's been a coordinator a long time in the NFL and in college. That would be fascinating. That really would be a fascinating hire. And according to these hypothetical odds, he would be at the top of the list. And then Aaron Glenn, Lions defensive coordinator, what they have done this year with injuries across the board on that defense has been really impressive. It helps when you have an offense that can put up points, that can obviously possess the ball for long periods of time, which the Lions have that. But yeah, Aaron Glenn's done a tremendous job there. He's also been in Jacksonville before as a player, former cornerback. He's plus 600 as well, according to these hypothetical odds with Todd Monken. And the important thing to focus on here isn't really the odds as much as it is just thinking about these names and how they could fit. And Aaron Glenn, he would obviously need to be able to attract a really smart offensive mind as a defensive coach. But do I think he could be a leader? Yes. Do I think he could get the Jaguars defense headed in the right direction? Absolutely. So he'd be another interesting one. And then at plus 800 is probably the two names that are most commonly associated with the Jaguars job. Ben Johnson and Bill Belichick, we've talked about them both quite a bit. Ben Johnson is just an offensive juggernaut right now. His ability to take his players' skill sets, take their input, and then create a cohesive offense around all of that has been pretty special the last few years in Detroit. And spent some years in Miami, spent some years in Detroit. He is going to be the hottest name on the head coaching search for pretty much every team that needs a head coach. And you just saw him come out. I don't remember who reported, maybe Albert Breer, but that Ben Johnson, he's going to only be taking interviews for jobs that he's legitimately interested in, and there's a couple things that he wants to identify about any of these jobs, like two questions that he would have. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. Yeah, so recognition from the organization of the things that have gone wrong and a willingness to fix them. That's going to be critical for him. And there was one other. Yeah. Okay. So organizational alignment, in particular between the head coach and GM, and then recognition from the organization on what went wrong previously and their willingness to fix it. And that was via Albert Breer. So is that legitimate? Yeah, I think that he does feel that way, but I think it could also be, just saying, hey, you're going to have to back up the Brinks truck for my guy here if you're Ben Johnson's agent, right? So I think Ben Johnson is the top candidate. I do. Now, the thing about Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Todd Monken, none of these guys have been head coaches. None of them know what it's like to have to lead an entire organization, not just worry about your side of the ball, but be worried about the offense, the defense, the special teams, and be worried about all the different PR stuff you have to do. The culture within the entire organization is led by you and the general manager, obviously. So it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting for sure. And Bill Belichick, that's probably the most divisive name of potential head coaches, because so many folks are just a lot of people pound the table for Bill Belichick. A lot of people can't stand the idea of Bill Belichick. I'm somewhere in the middle because, look, would he create a no-nonsense organization? Would he get that defense going in the right direction? Yes to both of those things. I would be pretty nervous about his plan on offense because of what he's done over the last several years, both from a personnel standpoint and from a who he's hiring to run the offense standpoint. Been some really questionable hires. Went back to Bill O'Brien, obviously, but that was after he tried to have Joe Judge and Matt Patricia running an offense, which made zero sense. Mike Vrabel is at plus 1,000 along with Cliff Kingsbury. Both of those guys have been former head coaches and former coordinators. Cliff Kingsbury is a current coordinator. Vrabel, though, former Titans head coach. That would be really interesting, just because obviously the proximity and association between the Jaguars and Titans, two biggest rivals in the AFC South, although the Texans they're trying to get on the Titans level right now. I think recency bias would probably have some Jags fans saying the Texans are their biggest rival, but they're not. The Titans are the Jaguars' biggest rival. So bringing in a head coach from your former rival, not unprecedented, right? The Titans hired Mike Mularkey, who coached the Jaguars for a year. But Vrabel would, I think, have a no-nonsense, high-energy, focus on the defensive side of the ball. But again, like a lot of the defensive guys on the list that could potentially be head coaches, Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, questions about what they would do offensively is my biggest catch-up there, or hang-up there, I should say. Cliff Kingsbury, as I mentioned, is right there with him. And again, all these odds are hypothetical. what he has done with Jaden Daniels and that Commanders offense, and what's funny is he's associated with quarterbacks for good reason. Like he's been a quarterbacks coach, he's been an offensive coach. He's had some incredible quarterbacks that he's worked with, whether it be as a head coach, assistant, whatever it may be. And he's really good at identifying quarterback talent. You don't need somebody to identify quarterback talent in Jacksonville. You need somebody to coach up the quarterback, and he's done such a tremendous job in the NFL with his run games. The creativity, the movement with his run games have been really something to see in Washington and back in Arizona. So Cliff Kingsbury, to me, it's tough because I look at almost all he's never been a consistently winning coach. And he had some teams in Arizona that were just, they could catch fire, absolutely, but they never sustained. And they would always fall off at the end of the year. So that one scares me a little bit. I do think he could have a lot of fun with this offense. I think he would get the running game going. But it would make me a little nervous. And then Marcus Freeman, the Notre Dame head coach, I honestly I don't know enough about him to really give a comment other than guys that have not really coached a whole lot in the NFL, going from college to the NFL, it usually does not work out very well. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think Marcus Freeman has much NFL experience, if any. Let's see. No. He's coached at Ohio State, was grad assistant there, Kent State, Purdue, Cincinnati, and Notre Dame. So yeah, I mean, that would be really interesting. I don't think that I would advocate for that move as much. And then Jesse Minter is the Chargers defensive coordinator, and that one would be really, really exciting. Both of those guys, Marcus Freeman and Jesse Minter, are plus 1,100 according to these hypothetical odds. Jesse Minter just put the college football world on notice last year with his unbelievable defense. There was a lot of talent on that defense, but then he's come to Los Angeles with the Chargers and done the exact same thing. I think he's going to be a head coach in the NFL sooner rather than later. Excited to see where he ends up landing, but if it's in Jacksonville, I think that you could feel really good about the future of the defense. And then I think that he's such a smart, conscientious coach. He would be able to figure something out on offense to really get maybe not the very best out of Trevor Lawrence like maybe a Ben Johnson would, but to put together a plan where we have got a really good defense. We've got an offense that complements the defense, that can play ball control, and that can also, obviously with Trevor Lawrence's arm and being such a great deep ball passer, get it going down the field. So that's kind of this look at these hypothetical coaching odds from Florida Bet. I'll leave the link in the description below. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Y'all have a good one.